Once frequency is mastered, results no longer require effort, because effort belongs to resistance, not to creation aligned with law. Tesla did not arrive at this understanding through belief or hope, but through long observation of systems that move without strain when properly tuned. In nature, rivers do not push toward the sea, planets do not labor to remain in orbit, and light does not struggle to travel. Motion appears only where harmony already exists. When force is applied, friction announces error. When alignment is correct, movement unfolds quietly. Tesla noticed that wherever effort dominated, something fundamental was misaligned. He saw that struggle was never evidence of virtue, but evidence of interference. This realization did not flatter ambition, it dismantled it. Effort in its excess revealed misunderstanding, not strength alone. From this, Tesla recognized that effort was not a cause of achievement, but a symptom of disharmony between intention and underlying frequency. Where frequency was incorrect, action multiplied and results diminished. Where frequency was precise, action reduced itself to necessity. Machines taught this lesson without emotion. A motor vibrating outside tolerance consumed power and produced heat. A circuit tuned correctly delivered output with minimal loss. The same law appeared in thought, invention, and human conduct. Strain signaled leakage. Persistence without correction wasted energy. Tesla observed that civilization celebrated exertion because it misunderstood cause. Nature rewarded calibration instead. What appeared effortless was not passive, but exact. The absence of strain did not indicate weakness. It indicated coherence. This principle operated universally, regardless of scale, context, or human preference, without exception always. Tesla did not moralize this discovery. Effort was not condemned, it was decoded. Force belonged to correction phases, not to sustained operation. Early adjustment demanded attention, not struggle. When alignment was achieved, force receded naturally. Observing waterfalls, turbines, and alternating currents, Tesla saw that resistance appeared only when pathways were obstructed. Remove obstruction, and movement restored itself. Apply pressure without clearing obstruction, and damage followed. Human striving mirrored this law precisely. Ambition pressed harder where understanding was absent. Results delayed, fatigue accumulated, and confidence eroded. Tesla began to see effort as information. It revealed where frequency contradicted outcome. The body, the mind, and the environment spoke through strain, offering diagnosis rather than punishment. This interpretation replaced self-blame with analysis and transformed frustration into precise feedback signals for adaptive correction. Nature never hurried, yet nothing essential was delayed. Tesla recognized this paradox repeatedly. Growth unfolded through rhythm, not urgency. Seeds did not accelerate by demand, nor did storms obey impatience. Frequency governed sequence. When sequence was violated, effort surged to compensate. This compensation failed because it addressed symptoms, not cause. Tesla observed that effort attempted to replace harmony with intensity. Intensity burned energy without direction. Harmony guided energy without exhaustion. This distinction clarified why relentless labor rarely produced proportional reward. The universe did not respond to volume of effort, but to accuracy of alignment. Results followed precision the way sound followed resonance, inevitably and without argument. This observation quietly restructured Tesla's entire approach to invention, discipline, and expectation across every domain of work, thought, and consequence, without exception or hesitation. Effortlessness did not mean inactivity. Tesla understood that misunderstanding arose from confusing stillness with stagnation. Correct frequency produced motion that felt self-propelled. Incorrect frequency demanded constant intervention. This applied equally to machines and minds. When an idea aligned with natural law, progress accelerated without strain. When an idea violated structure, persistence only deepened resistance. Tesla traced many failures to admiration of effort itself. Society praised struggle and ignored alignment. This inversion taught people to push harder instead of listening more precisely. Tesla listened. He allowed outcomes to reveal errors in tuning. In doing so, effort diminished as clarity increased, and results began to organize themselves. This shift unfolded gradually, through solitude, correction, patience, and repeated confirmation by observed cause and effect, rather than belief, hope, persuasion, or doctrine alone. Through years of refinement, Tesla separated effort from discipline. Discipline maintained frequency. Effort attempted to overpower deviation. One conserved energy, the other consumed it. This separation resolved a central confusion in human striving. People believed exhaustion proved commitment. Tesla saw exhaustion as evidence of misalignment, sustained too long. When frequency matched intention, discipline felt light, repeatable, and exact. There was no drama. There was consistency. The system held itself. Tesla recognized that mastery did not increase strain, it removed it. Effort faded not because ambition weakened, but because resistance dissolved. Results arrived with quiet certainty, not celebration, and without the noise of struggle. This understanding marked a turning point, replacing force with calibration across every domain of purposeful creation, including thought, invention, timing, endurance, expectation, and outcome. Universally, reliably, consistently. Effortlessness then emerged not as a technique, but as an indicator. It signaled that frequency was correct. Tesla trusted indicators more than ideals. Nature did not deceive, it responded. When effort spiked, adjustment was required. When effort disappeared, progression was underway. This framework replaced hope with measurement. Strain became a gauge. Ease became confirmation. Tesla did not rush to remove effort prematurely. He allowed systems to settle into coherence. Only then did motion sustain itself. This patience prevented distortion. It respected order. Results obtained this way carried stability rather than volatility. They endured because they were supported by law, not forced into existence. Such results required no defense, no repetition of proof, and no maintenance through anxiety or control. Once coherence was established, sustained, and preserved by alignment alone, naturally, by observing effort as misalignment rather than virtue, Tesla concluded that mastery was subtraction, not accumulation. Remove contradiction and energy flows. Remove urgency and sequence restores itself. Remove doubt and direction clarifies. Effort had masqueraded as discipline because alignment had been neglected. Once frequency was set correctly, behavior organized without command, action arose without deliberation, results appeared without insistence. This was not mysticism. It was mechanics applied inwardly. Nature confirmed it everywhere. Systems in tune did not strain. They functioned. No persuasion was required. No reinforcement applied, because alignment itself carried momentum, stability, and continuity across time, without effort, strain, urgency, resistance, or force. This realization closed the first circuit of understanding, establishing the law that governed all subsequent discoveries and all future application. Effort is the signal of misalignment. Movement never begins with action. It begins with frequency. Tesla came to understand that motion observed in nature is not initiated by force, but by resonance established before movement occurs. When frequency is correct, motion follows automatically, as a response rather than a command. When frequency is incorrect, motion must be imposed, and imposed motion carries resistance. This distinction revealed why effort felt heavy and why certain outcomes unfolded with quiet inevitability. Tesla observed that the universe does not respond to desire, intention, or exertion alone. It responds to coherence. Frequency sets the condition under which movement becomes possible. Action without alignment was noise. Alignment without force produced motion that appeared intelligent, ordered, and self-sustaining. This principle clarified why repeated action often failed to produce progress. Action was being treated as a cause rather than an effect. Tesla saw that correct frequency functioned like a key that unlocked motion already prepared to occur. Without the key, pressure bent mechanisms and wasted energy. With the key, systems opened themselves. Electricity demonstrated this without emotion. A circuit oscillating at the proper frequency transmitted power cleanly. A circuit forced outside resonance generated heat, loss, and instability. The same law governed thought, invention, and human effort. When internal frequency contradicted external aim, motion resisted direction. When frequency matched aim, motion required no supervision. It emerged as consequence, not intention. Tesla recognized that frequency preceded form. Before any visible result appeared, an invisible state had already been established. This state determined whether movement would be smooth or obstructed. People attempted to move the world while neglecting the state from which movement originated. This reversal explained exhaustion without progress. The world did not respond because it was not being addressed at the correct level. Frequency governed access. Once access was granted, movement required no persuasion. It followed pattern. Tesla observed this in rotating fields, alternating currents, and harmonic systems. Motion emerged when fields were arranged correctly. No additional effort improved the outcome. Correct arrangement was sufficient. Everything beyond that was interference. From this understanding, Tesla separated motion from effort entirely. Motion was lawful. Effort was compensatory. When frequency was incorrect, effort attempted to bridge the gap. When frequency was correct, effort became unnecessary. This explained why some actions felt heavy while others felt inevitable. The difference was not willpower but coherence. Frequency determined whether energy flowed or stagnated. Tesla noticed that impatience disrupted frequency by introducing contradiction. Calm precision stabilized it. When calm precision was present, movement organized itself. Timing improved, decisions simplified, opportunities aligned. These effects were not rewards. They were consequences of resonance established before action occurred, invisible but exact, consistent and repeatable under the same conditions. Tesla also observed that frequency did not demand intensity, it demanded accuracy. Loud signals failed where precise ones succeeded. Repetition without coherence reinforced error. Stillness with clarity prepared movement. This overturned cultural admiration for effortful striving. Tesla understood that motion generated through strain carried instability. It required constant correction. Motion generated through alignment sustained itself. This distinction applied to machines and minds equally. The body moved efficiently when signals were synchronized. Thought progressed efficiently when intention was unified. Frequency unified intention. When unified, motion followed without command. When divided, motion fractured. Effort attempted to repair fragmentation but could not replace coherence. Frequency also explained why certain results appeared suddenly after long periods of apparent inactivity. Alignment had been forming beneath the surface. Once complete, movement released itself. This release was mistaken for luck or sudden change. Tesla recognized it as delayed resonance. Systems required time to settle into correct frequency. Premature force disrupted this settling. Patience preserved it. Tesla allowed alignment to complete before expecting motion. This restraint prevented distortion. It honored sequence. When movement finally appeared, it did so with speed and stability, confirming that frequency had been established correctly. Action followed naturally, without strain, urgency, or the sensation of pushing against resistance. This understanding reshaped Tesla's approach to creation. Instead of asking how to act, attention shifted to how to tune. Instead of demanding movement, conditions were arranged. Instead of multiplying effort, contradictions were removed. Frequency became the source. Action became the expression. Results became the consequence. This inversion eliminated unnecessary labor. It replaced struggle with observation. Movement was no longer chased. It was allowed. Tesla saw that when frequency was correct, the system itself demanded motion. Inaction became uncomfortable. Action felt unavoidable. This was not motivation. It was alignment asserting itself through movement, precise, economical, and directed without strain. By recognizing frequency as the true source of movement, Tesla resolved the illusion that effort creates results. Effort responded to misalignment. Frequency created motion. When frequency preceded action, results arrived quietly and predictably. When action preceded frequency, resistance dominated. This law applied universally, without exception. It governed machines, minds, and outcomes alike. Mastery therefore required attention to the invisible state before movement, not obsession with movement itself. Once frequency was set, movement became inevitable. Once inevitable, effort dissolved. This realization established the second principle of effortlessness and clarified why results do not respond to force, but to alignment alone. Frequency precedes motion, and motion follows without strain. Internal contradiction was revealed to Tesla as the most subtle and most destructive source of energy loss. Systems did not fail because power was insufficient, but because direction was divided. When intention fractured, energy scattered. When energy scattered, effort surged to compensate. Tesla observed that doubt, fear, and conflicting desire did not merely affect emotion. They altered frequency itself. A system could not resonate while oscillating between incompatible states. Motion stalled. Resistance appeared. The individual interpreted this resistance as external opposition, when in truth it originated internally. Tesla understood that the universe responded faithfully to coherence, and equally faithfully to contradiction. Where the signal conflicted, the response fragmented. No amount of force corrected a divided frequency. This principle appeared clearly in electrical systems. A current split across opposing pathways produced loss, noise, and instability. Energy dissipated as heat rather than output. Tesla recognized the same pattern in human striving. Desire pointed forward while fear pulled backward. Intention aimed upward while doubt applied downward pressure. These opposing vectors consumed energy without producing movement. Effort increased not because the task was difficult, but because the signal was incoherent. Tesla saw that most struggle originated here. People exhausted themselves attempting to overpower internal resistance instead of resolving it. This exhaustion was misinterpreted as commitment. In reality, it was leakage. Internal contradiction drained power before it could reach action. Tesla noticed that clarity restored energy instantly. When doubt dissolved, strength returned without rest. When fear receded, focus sharpened. This phenomenon revealed that energy had never been absent. It had been trapped in opposition. Once opposition resolved, energy flowed naturally. Tesla concluded that confidence was not an emotional state, but a structural one. It emerged when intention aligned fully with belief and expectation. Where belief contradicted desire, effort replaced coherence. Where belief supported desire, effort disappeared. This understanding reframed discipline. Discipline was not suppression of doubt through force. It was removal of contradiction through precision. Resolve the conflict and motion resumed automatically. The mind functioned as a tuning chamber. Every conflicting thought introduced interference. Tesla observed that scattered attention weakened frequency. Concentrated attention strengthened it. Fear fragmented attention. Doubt split intention. Divided intention produced erratic output. Tesla did not treat fear as a moral failing. It was a signal of misalignment. Fear indicated that the system did not trust its own direction. Until trust was restored through clarity, effort would continue to rise without corresponding progress. This law operated impersonally. It did not punish. It reflected. Tesla trusted reflection over reassurance. Where reflection revealed contradiction, correction followed. Where correction followed, energy consolidated. This insight explained why affirmations without conviction failed. Words contradicted internal expectation. The signal canceled itself. Tesla recognized that repetition amplified whatever state already existed. If repetition reinforced coherence, frequency stabilized. If repetition reinforced contradiction, resistance intensified. This explained why some practices increased frustration rather than relief. They multiplied internal noise. Tesla concluded that intention must be unified before repetition carried power. Otherwise, effort would increase with no return. Internal alignment was therefore prerequisite to effective action. Without it, movement required constant correction. With it, movement stabilized itself. Tesla also observed that internal contradiction often masqueraded as urgency. Urgency attempted to outrun doubt. Speed attempted to hide uncertainty. The faster the pace, the less attention remained to resolve contradiction. This strategy failed consistently. The system destabilized further. Tesla slowed instead. Slowness exposed conflict. Exposure allowed correction. Correction restored coherence. Once coherence returned, speed increased naturally, without urgency. This sequence preserved energy. Tesla learned that haste was not a sign of confidence. It was a symptom of unresolved internal division. Calm restored unity. Unity restored power. The removal of internal contradiction produced a distinct sensation. Effort dropped sharply. Decisions simplified. Action felt singular rather than forced. Tesla recognized this sensation as alignment. It was not emotional excitement. It was quiet certainty. This certainty did not require encouragement. It required no repetition of justification. It held steady under pressure because it was structurally supported. Tesla trusted this state more than enthusiasm. Enthusiasm fluctuated. Alignment endured. Once achieved, it guided behavior automatically. Action emerged without debate. Results followed without persuasion. Through this understanding, Tesla reframed energy conservation inwardly. Avoiding contradiction preserved power more effectively than rest. Resolving doubt restored strength more reliably than stimulation. Internal coherence reduced effort at its source. This principle applied universally. Systems aligned internally did not require excessive input. Systems divided internally consumed power without progress. Mastery therefore required vigilance over internal states, not relentless action. Tesla treated clarity as fuel. He treated contradiction as drag. Removing drag restored motion without strain. By identifying internal contradiction as the root of energy loss, Tesla completed the third realization. Effort was not created by external difficulty. It was created by internal division. Remove division, and energy reassembled itself. Movement resumed naturally. Results followed without resistance. This law revealed why mastery was quiet and why struggle was loud. Loudness compensated for incoherence. Silence signaled unity. From this, the principle became unavoidable and exact, governing all effortlessness that followed. Internal contradiction creates drag and dissolves powers. Detachment from strain emerged as a necessary condition for stable frequency. Tesla observed that urgency altered internal state more rapidly than almost any other influence. It compressed perception, narrowed attention, and distorted sequence. What urgency promised in speed, it removed in accuracy. Systems subjected to urgency vibrated erratically. Signals overlapped. Timing fractured. Effort increased sharply while coherence declined. Tesla recognized that urgency was not intensity of purpose, but anxiety about outcome. It introduced fear of delay into the signal. That fear contradicted alignment and forced compensation through effort. Detachment was therefore not indifference. It was protection of frequency against distortion. This distinction clarified why calm expectation produced better results than emotional insistence. Calm preserved structure. Insistence disrupted it. Tesla noticed that when urgency entered the system, imagination lost precision. Images blurred. Anticipation replaced configuration. Action rushed ahead of readiness. Corrections multiplied. Effort surged. By contrast, when urgency was removed, internal order stabilized. Timing improved without conscious control. Decisions emerged cleanly. Action occurred at the correct moment without pressure. Detachment maintained the internal environment necessary for frequency to hold. It prevented contamination by fear and impatience, which acted as noise within the system. Tesla also recognized that urgency was often disguised as dedication. People equated tension with commitment and believed that relaxation signaled loss of desire. This confusion sustained strain unnecessarily. Tesla separated desire from urgency completely. Desire set direction. Urgency disrupted sequence. Direction required clarity. Sequence required patience. Without patience, frequency destabilized and effort returned. Tesla trusted sequence over impulse. He allowed systems to unfold at their own rate. This did not slow progress. It prevented regression. Movement that respected sequence endured. Movement forced by urgency collapsed or required constant reinforcement. Detachment also protected against emotional oscillation. Emotional swings altered frequency unpredictably. Hope spiked, then fear followed. Confidence surged, then doubt undermined it. These oscillations created internal turbulence. Tesla observed that stable frequency required emotional neutrality. Neutrality did not suppress feeling, it prevented feeling from commanding direction. Emotion was permitted to pass without altering configuration. This discipline conserved energy. Effort declined as emotional interference diminished. Results stabilized, because the system no longer reacted to every fluctuation. Detachment acted as insulation, preserving alignment against disturbance. This insight explained why results often appeared after letting go rather than pushing harder. Letting go removed urgency. Removing urgency restored coherence. Restored coherence allowed movement. Tesla saw this pattern repeatedly. Strain delayed outcomes. Release accelerated them. This was not surrender of intention, it was withdrawal of interference. Intention remained intact. Frequency stabilized. Action followed naturally. Detachment therefore functioned as an active process, not passivity. It required trust in law rather than control through effort. Tesla also observed that detachment sharpened perception. Without urgency, attention widened. Signals became visible that were previously ignored. Opportunities emerged because perception was no longer constrained by anxiety. Anxiety narrowed focus to immediate outcome. Detachment allowed awareness of sequence. Sequence guided timing. Timing reduced effort. Tesla concluded that urgency was blind. Detachment was observant. Observation replaced compulsion. Compulsion wasted energy. Observation conserved it. This conservation manifested as effortlessness. Detachment further revealed that outcomes did not require supervision once frequency was set. Continual monitoring reintroduced urgency. Rechecking disturbed alignment. Tesla learned to step back once configuration was complete. This restraint allowed systems to operate independently. Results matured without interference. This discipline required confidence in process rather than fixation on outcome. Confidence stabilized frequency. Fixation destabilized it. The difference determined whether effort returned or remained absent. Through detachment, Tesla understood that mastery did not demand tension, it demanded trust and alignment. Urgency was a sign that alignment was incomplete or doubted. Where alignment was trusted, urgency dissolved. Where urgency dissolved, effort disappeared. This relationship was exact and repeatable. Detachment preserved frequency by preventing emotional noise from corrupting structure. It allowed time and sequence to operate without obstruction. By recognizing detachment from strain and urgency as essential to frequency stability, Tesla completed the fifth realization. Results did not respond to pressure. They responded to coherence maintained without interference. Calm expectation protected alignment. Urgency destroyed it. This law governed the transition from force to flow, defining the boundary where effort ceased and inevitability resumed. Urgency disrupts frequency and restores strain. Time revealed itself to Tesla not as an obstacle to overcome, but as a sequence to be respected. Effortlessness did not violate order, it depended on it. Tesla observed that systems moved smoothly only when actions occurred at the correct moment within a larger progression. When timing was ignored, effort increased to compensate. Force attempted to replace sequence. This substitution failed consistently. Nature refused compression. Growth followed rhythm. Electricity flowed according to cycle. Fields established themselves before producing output. Tesla recognized that impatience toward time created strain because it demanded results without honoring the conditions required for their emergence. This understanding corrected the misconception that effortlessness implied immediacy. Tesla saw that aligned systems still unfolded through stages. Frequency prepared motion, but motion respected order. When sequence was violated, resistance appeared. Effort surged to bridge the gap. Tesla noted that people often confuse delay with denial. They interpreted absence of immediate result as failure. This misinterpretation triggered urgency and force. In truth, alignment was incomplete or sequence unfinished. Allowing sequence to complete preserved coherence. Forcing outcome interrupted it. Tesla trusted sequence because sequence protected structure. Structure protected result. Tesla also observed that time functioned as a filter. Incorrect configurations dissolved under duration. Correct configurations strengthened. Effort attempted to accelerate this filtering. Acceleration distorted feedback. Patience preserved it. Tesla allowed ideas to mature internally before expecting manifestation externally. This maturation refined frequency. It eliminated contradiction. Once mature, movement released naturally. This process conserved energy. It prevented premature action and unnecessary correction. Tesla treated waiting as part of work, not absence of it. Waiting maintained alignment. Rushing destroyed it. Sequence also governed learning. Tesla noticed that understanding arrived in layers, not leaps. Each realization depended on the previous one. Skipping layers produced confusion. Confusion required effort to resolve. Following sequence produced clarity. Clarity reduced effort. Tesla applied this inwardly. He allowed comprehension to unfold gradually. He did not demand immediate certainty. Certainty emerged as consequence of accumulated coherence. This patience prevented error. It preserved energy. Results arrived when understanding and condition converged. Tesla further recognized that time stabilized frequency by smoothing fluctuations. Sudden change destabilized systems. Gradual change allowed adaptation. Effort spiked during abrupt transitions. It declined during smooth ones. Tesla aligned change with natural tempo. This alignment reduced resistance. Motion integrated rather than collided. Tesla saw that effortlessness did not eliminate work. It eliminated shock. Shock introduced friction. Friction consumed energy. Sequence minimized shock. Sequence conserved power. This principle applied equally to ambition. Tesla observed that long-term alignment produced greater effect than short bursts of exertion. Consistency respected time. Intensity challenged it. Intensity burned resources quickly. Consistency accumulated effect. Tesla favored continuity. Continuity stabilized frequency across duration. This stability allowed results to compound without strain. Time became ally rather than adversary. Effort diminished as trust in sequence increased. Tesla also noted that sequence could not be forced, even with correct frequency. Alignment prepared movement. Timing released it. Attempting to release before timing produced distortion. Tesla waited. He did not interpret waiting as passivity. It was precision. When the moment arrived, action required no deliberation. It occurred naturally. This confirmed that sequence governed release. Respecting sequence preserved effortlessness. Violating it restored strain. Through this understanding, Tesla reframed time as a structural component of alignment. Frequency set the state. Sequence determined expression. Effort emerged only when sequence was challenged. When sequence was honored, effort vanished. Tesla ceased fighting time and began cooperating with it. This cooperation reduced friction. Results stabilized. Progress endured. By recognizing time and sequence as integral to natural flow, Tesla completed the sixth realization. Effortlessness did not bypass order. It moved within it. Alignment prepared conditions. Sequence governed release. Respect for timing preserved coherence and eliminated strain. This law clarified why patience was not delay, but precision, and why mastery unfolded quietly across time rather than erupting through force. Sequence determines release, and effortless flow. Action revealed itself to Tesla not as a strategy to be designed, but as a consequence that emerged once coherence was complete. When frequency aligned, contradiction dissolved, imagination clarified, urgency withdrew, and sequence matured. Movement no longer required planning, it announced itself. Tesla observed that aligned action felt inevitable rather than chosen. It did not argue for itself. It did not demand motivation. It appeared as the only sensible continuation of an established state. This was how nature moved. Leaves did not debate falling. Currents did not deliberate direction. Action followed configuration. When configuration was correct, movement occurred without force, hesitation, or persuasion. This realization corrected the prevailing belief that action creates alignment. Tesla saw the reverse. Alignment created action. When people acted prematurely, effort multiplied because action attempted to resolve what frequency had not yet settled. This produced scattered motion and inconsistent results. Tesla waited for alignment to insist on movement. When it did, action required no discipline to initiate. Discipline had already been applied earlier in calibration. Action then unfolded as execution, not struggle. The distinction was precise. Action taken to compensate for uncertainty drained energy. Action taken as expression of certainty conserved it. Tesla also noticed that aligned action carried a distinctive quality of simplicity. Complexity belonged to correction phases. When frequency was incorrect, action branched endlessly, requiring monitoring and adjustment. When frequency was correct, action reduced itself to essentials. Steps organized naturally. Obstacles diminished. Decisions required little deliberation because alternatives no longer competed. Tesla recognized that clarity eliminated options. Only one path remained consistent with alignment. Action followed that path without resistance. This economy of movement was not minimalism by preference. It was inevitability by structure. Aligned action also lacked emotional charge. It did not feel urgent or heroic. It felt ordinary and necessary. Tesla observed that when emotion dominated action, alignment was incomplete. Emotion attempted to supply momentum that coherence would otherwise provide. Once coherence existed, emotion settled. Action proceeded calmly. This calmness did not reduce effectiveness. It increased it. Calm action did not overshoot or retract. It moved directly. Tesla trusted calm more than excitement. Excitement fluctuated. Calm persisted. Persistence sustained results. This insight dismantled the need for motivation. Motivation functioned as fuel for misalignment. Where alignment was absent, motivation attempted to push movement forward. Where alignment was present, motivation was unnecessary. Movement carried its own momentum. Tesla saw that people exhausted themselves seeking motivation because they attempted to act without coherence. Action felt heavy because it was unsupported. Once coherence was restored, action felt light because it was carried by structure. This replaced effort with inevitability. Tesla further recognized that aligned action was self-regulating. It adjusted naturally to feedback without emotional disturbance. Errors corrected themselves quickly because they were minor deviations, not structural flaws. When action arose from misalignment, errors multiplied and demanded intervention. Intervention increased effort. Aligned action reduced intervention. It allowed systems to self-correct. Tesla saw this in machines and minds alike. Systems operating within tolerance corrected drift automatically. Systems forced outside tolerance failed catastrophically. Action emerging from alignment remained within tolerance by design. This understanding also reframed productivity. Tesla observed that productivity did not increase by adding tasks, but by removing contradiction. When contradiction disappeared, action density increased without conscious acceleration. More occurred in less time without pressure. This was not efficiency achieved through compression. It was efficiency achieved through coherence. Tesla recognized that action became a byproduct of frequency, not a target to pursue. Pursuing action distracted from calibration. Calibrating frequency allowed action to organize itself. Tesla also noticed that aligned action could not be rushed. It arrived when configuration demanded it. Attempting to act sooner disrupted readiness. Attempting to delay disrupted momentum. Timing governed release. Once released, action unfolded continuously. Interrupting it reintroduced effort. Tesla learned to respect the onset of action as carefully as its preparation. He allowed movement to complete once begun. This continuity preserved energy and prevented fragmentation. Fragmentation required repair. Repair required effort. Through this lens, Tesla understood that strategy belonged to misaligned systems. Strategy attempted to substitute planning for coherence. When coherence existed, strategy simplified or vanished. The system knew what to do. Tesla trusted this knowing because it emerged from structural alignment rather than impulse. Action then served alignment rather than replacing it. Results followed without insistence. The process felt self-sustaining because it was supported by law rather than will. By recognizing action as a byproduct rather than a strategy, Tesla completed the seventh realization. Action did not create alignment. Alignment created action. When frequency was coherent, movement emerged naturally, calmly, and with precision. Effort was absent because no compensation was required. The system moved because it could not remain still once aligned. This law clarified why mastery felt quiet, and why forceful action felt heavy, establishing the principle that governed execution without strain. Aligned action emerges without deliberation or force. Results revealed themselves to Tesla not as rewards to be earned, but as consequences that arrived when resistance was absent. Once frequency was mastered, nothing needed to be summoned, persuaded, or chased. Outcomes assembled themselves according to law. Tesla observed that nature did not negotiate results. When conditions were correct, effects followed. When conditions were incomplete, effort attempted to replace readiness and failed. Mastery therefore shifted attention away from result-seeking entirely. Results were treated as indicators, not objectives. They appeared when coherence was sustained, just as sound appears when vibration is set correctly. No additional effort improved their arrival. This understanding dissolved the illusion of control. Tesla saw that control belonged to misalignment. When alignment was absent, intervention multiplied. When alignment was present, intervention became unnecessary. Results stabilized without supervision. This stability distinguished mastery from temporary success. Temporary success relied on effort and vigilance. Mastery relied on structure. Structure endured. Tesla trusted what endured. He observed that results born of alignment required no defense. They did not fluctuate with mood, circumstance, or external opinion. They persisted because they were supported internally by coherence, rather than externally by force. Tesla also recognized that effortlessness did not produce spectacle, it produced inevitability. Results arrived quietly, sometimes unnoticed at first, because no drama accompanied them. Struggle had trained people to expect noise. Silence felt unfamiliar. Tesla understood that silence signaled completion rather than absence. When systems reached equilibrium, movement continued without disturbance. Results unfolded within this equilibrium. They did not announce themselves. They integrated. Tesla trusted integration over excitement. Excitement faded. Integration remained. This realization clarified why mastery required internal authority. External validation destabilized frequency by shifting attention outward. Tesla observed that once alignment was complete, approval or disapproval became irrelevant. Results did not depend on recognition. They depended on law. This independence preserved effortlessness. Seeking confirmation reintroduced strain. Trusting alignment preserved calm. Calm maintained frequency. Frequency maintained outcome. This closed the circuit. Mastery was internal. Results were external reflections of that internal order. Tesla further saw that, once mastery was established, repetition of effort became counterproductive. Continuing to push after alignment disturbed equilibrium. Results required space to settle. Tesla withdrew interference. He allowed effects to complete their expression. This restraint was often misunderstood as passivity. In truth, it was confidence in structure. Confidence allowed stillness. Stillness conserved energy. Energy supported continuity. Continuity sustained results across time. The inevitability of results also eliminated anxiety about failure. Failure indicated misalignment, not inadequacy. Tesla treated absence of result as information rather than judgment. Correction occurred quietly. Once correction was complete, results resumed. This cycle removed emotional turbulence. Effortlessness depended on emotional neutrality. Neutrality preserved frequency. Tesla recognized that emotion attempted to accelerate or delay outcome artificially. Mastery allowed outcome to arrive at its proper moment without interference. This perspective transformed ambition. Ambition no longer demanded constant activity. It demanded maintenance of alignment. Maintenance was subtle. It required awareness rather than exertion. Tesla observed that once frequency was mastered, the primary task became preservation, not pursuit. Preservation required vigilance against contradiction, urgency, and interference. This vigilance was calm. It did not exhaust. It sustained. Results accumulated naturally within this sustained state. Tesla also understood that mastery did not end movement. It stabilized it. Progress continued, but without strain. Growth occurred without tension. Expansion unfolded without collapse. This continuity distinguished mastery from bursts of success followed by depletion. Effortless results did not deplete energy. They conserved it. Conservation allowed repetition. Repetition allowed permanence. Tesla valued permanence over intensity. Intensity faded. Permanence endured. Through this final realization, Tesla understood that results were never the goal. Alignment was. Once alignment was complete, results became unavoidable. They arrived without request, without pressure, and without delay beyond sequence. Effort had no role left to play. It dissolved naturally. What remained was stillness in motion, authority without force, and outcome without strain. This completed the understanding that governed all prior realizations and sealed the principle underlying mastery itself. Sejolds are the inevitable consequence of frequency master,